If we look right here, Tim, there's so many amazing pieces of player communication. This is why this game, Into the Breach, is so great. Have a look, you're mousing over this guy. It's so clear what you have to do. If you look at your guy that's wrapped up in the kind of spider webby poop stuff over there, I mean, that's obvious that he's stuck. But there's also the red lines underneath.
Yeah, no, it's super, super clear, like what I can do and what I can't do. And I think just like the green squares like this, it seems so obvious, but if you're missing something like this, I don't know what the hell to do or where I can go. And when you have different unit types like here this game does, it's really helpful to be able to know. I don't have to remember like, oh, in some other game, this guy moves two spots to the left. This guy specifically can move anywhere there's green, and I don't have to remember their patterns or anything. It kind of takes it out of my head, you know?
And for those of you watching and you don't know Into the Breach, it's a turn-based combat game. We've got our 3 or 4 guys. We need to beat their 3 or 4 guys to get to the next level. It's pretty straightforward. But what we can learn out of this is the way that it's very clear to the player what you can do, what you can't do, what you should and shouldn't do. Just there's a tile that's on fire. There's the little red arrows that are coming out where a new enemy is going to spawn. It's not getting in the way of the game, but it's so clear what we need to do. For me, not having played this game, I kind of know intuitively what we need to protect.
Yeah.
It's the stuff with the bubble things around it. There's nothing else that says protect these things like that.
Yeah.
You mouse over it. There's a consistent language. What is it? It's green for goodies that can move.
Red for they use the red twice. One when I hit the attack button and it shows me my attack range, but 2 when it actually shows green when I click on the enemy, which is interesting because now I can see where they can move too, and that's very, very helpful.
Oh, so when you click on that enemy just now, it's showing you the green spaces is where that guy could scuttle to his next turn. Okay, so green is movement. That's cool. And then red is, they've got red arrows saying the direction they're attacking at the moment. Yeah. And your characters have the yellow V over the top. One of the characters has a V with no thing in the middle of it, and the others have V with things in the middle of it. What does that mean? Is that...
intuitively, I don't know what it means, but he's the only guy that can't move. So I would think that was his movement point or whatever.
Right. He can shoot, but not move because the arrow thing is away. Yeah.
It did. So you've got the movement and the combat there.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, and the fact that we just figured that out, it shows you that this game is on point
we're
with
really
the
clever.
UI feedback.
Oh, yeah, the game.
No, we're fantastic at this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move this guy here.
Yeah, the squares you can't move into with the mountains. For me, I would never even try to move into that mountain. It says you can't, thou shall not pass. Whereas the forest, I look at that and I say, yeah, I can walk through that. The water tiles, I also think I probably can't walk into those water tiles. So there's a clarity to it, and that's why we're looking at this game and talking about it. There's a real clarity. It's very clear and it's very, very loud what the game's telling you can or can't do or should or shouldn't do, but it fits. It's the same graphical style with everything else.
Well, you know what else, Rick? I don't know if you noticed this, but down here in the right corner, as I hover over a tile, it tells me specifically what that tile does.
Oh, yeah.
So units cannot attack in water. Most non-flying enemies die in water. When I hover over the forest, it says, if damaged, lights on fire.
Yep.
So, I mean, just not only is this game fantastic at the actual, like, oh, I'm hovering this is what this guy does, but also if you want the actual information, you can get it in the same way that when I click on an enemy, it shows me where he can move. But it also, if I hover over him over here, I can see exactly what he does. I can see his health, I can see his special ability, and there's an animated GIF down here that shows me specifically how he attacks and what he does.
And you can see it's got 1 point, and then your health is going down by 1. So it's really clear. For people who don't want to read, which is often me, I can just see really quickly in that GIF, like, oh, bang, down by 1, got it, really clear.
Yeah. It makes the game really easy to understand. And I think a game like this at first can feel kind of like overwhelming, but I think the fact that it makes it accessible with these different types of things, like, you can't confuse this, right? Like, it'd be really hard to figure out what that's movement.
Can you show me the difference between a mouse over and a click and a non-mouse over on, say, an enemy? Because I can see on my units, I've got I can move and I can shoot, and the guy you've clicked on's got his health, but the other guys I can't see their health. So it's not showing everyone's health at this point in time. If you were to click on another one of your characters, would it show their health?
So yes, it does.
As soon as you moused over it.
When I mouse over it, it shows the health. But the enemy, I'm noticing that when I hover over the enemy, it shows him and it shows me, because I'm connected to him by the little web thing. I don't know if that's why, but I find that very interesting. And then the click itself is what actually shows me the move range. So now he's selected and he's got a little outline around him.
What are the little green Love Hardy things? Is he getting healed by someone?
I believe that's his Invigorating Spores. That's his special ability. So the Soldier Sign is providing +1 HP to all Vek. So he's giving +1 HP to people around him.
He's got a buff that he's... Okay, yeah.
We want to take him out. I don't like that. You need
to
make that.
Buff.
I gotta end turn.
And then end turn, that's really clear. Fire damage, that's clear. Power lost. Yep. So giving it enough time that we know what happened, and you've sped up combat a little bit here. You can change that in settings.
Yeah, made it fast. Zoom, zoom.
Yep. Which is good as well. Like, you want to say, what do players need when they first start the game? They want it to be nice and slow. But after a while, they're like, yeah, come on. Particularly with turn-based. I don't want to watch the enemies all thinking about, like, the old Civilization games where you're like, dang, dang, dang. You're like, come on, get on with it.
Yes. No, I think that's a great accessibility option too, and it makes pro players, like, at some point you're gonna learn the game, right? Like we were talking about, like, oh, I'm gonna go like this, and it's gonna look crazy to everybody that's watching, but like at some point I'm like, okay, I get it. Now I want to just have a better experience because I know what the thing does. Like right here, this game can kind of go as fast as I want to go. Right.
Well, let's talk. What you did just then was awesome. Let's talk about the second thing that we wanted to talk about in this video, which is how to take a standard genre, a standard game mechanic, which is my guy fights your guy. I can move and I can attack. You can move, you can attack. And how to create something that is more, there's more choice for the player and a little bit more depth than perhaps some of these other games have. And what you did just then, perhaps you can talk us through which guy did it and what happened. That is really interesting.
So each dude has his own level of moves. I'm going to end turn so we can get their moves back. But basically, not only does each guy have its individual own move pattern, but it also has its own attack pattern, which makes each unit useful. I lost one, which I'm upset about.
That's okay. This is all about the learning journey, not about you winning.
So this guy, when I click his attack button, because at first it wants me to move, but I can click his little attack button. And then it gives me his attack range. And he, as you can see with that little yellow circle, has like this mortar thing that has a longer range.
And he shoots straight.
Yeah, straight in any direction. Not backwards though. But then on top of that, as you can see, as I'm hovering over each one of these things, it's telling me what's going to happen. There's a 1 in the middle that says 1 damage, but it's also going to push people in either direction.
And we know that... sorry to interrupt, we know that when you push someone into something else, it damages them even more.
Right.
So there's an extra layer of strategy, not just I run up and attack you, but if I can bump you into something, then that's a superior move.
So there's a lot of levels to that. So not only can you bump somebody into something else to get extra damage using an attack like this, but you can also, they also choreograph their attacks. So you can see this guy is going to attack here. This guy is going to attack here. That's what these little red circles are for. And everything that's covered in these red squares, they're going to be attacked next turn. But because their attacks are choreographed, right? If I go like this and I use this attack, which is going to move this guy towards this way and this guy towards me, this guy is going to take extra damage because he's going to hit me. And this guy is going to attack his own friend because currently he's trying to attack this building. But
so he's lined up with his weapon and he's ready, set, go. But if you kind of like turn him a different way, he still does that.
And now this goes beyond combat, because now what's happening is you don't just have, oh, let me shoot this guy and take him out. Now you have, let me use this guy as a strategic pawn to do the thing that I want to do. And this makes combat way different.
And when you bumped that guy into you, did you take damage from that as well?
I did.
You and he took a point of damage?
Yes.
Right. So if you've got buildings you need to protect and you bounce a guy into it, then that's going to do damage to the buildings you're trying to protect. Not a good thing,
right.
But it might end up killing the guy. But if it doesn't kill the guy, then I shouldn't do it. So you've got layer. It's like chess. They've made a turn-based combat strategy game that feels a lot more like chess than it does the typical, my archer has a certain number of hit points and your guy has a certain amount of defensiveness. It's more the strategy of placement. They brought placement into this game.
It's a very positional game, and it's a very, not only are the positions of all the enemies important, but they're important relative to the other enemies as well. They're important relative to the world elements, like the water tiles, because you can actually push them in the water tiles. They're important relative to the grass and trees, because the trees can start on fire and hurt them. There's so many things that, one of the things I just love about this game is like how interconnected it is. It doesn't feel tacked on, it feels designed. There's a lot of games that just feel like, oh, well, they just added a health bar because health bars. But this game, like, I feel like they've taken away everything that doesn't need to be here, and they've really tried to polish the things that should.
The other thing that is a great innovation over the standard mechanism of I haven't played a million of these turn-based combat games, but I've played enough to kind of get a feel for the norm, for the standard. And the standard often is that when I kill your guys, I win. But in here, we've brought in the environment. So if you, a little bit like an RTS, if you kill my buildings, then you win. If I protect my buildings, then I win. If I destroy your units, there's multiple ways of winning and losing. And there's objectives above and beyond just find the guy, kill the guy, which is what those games can sometimes degenerate into. Just find him, kill him,
I think objectives have another point too, and they really change up the gameplay. Like having to defend this guy here, that whole game, was a very different way of playing than having to go on offense, or like we were playing before, like avoiding an airstrike or something like that. So I killed my people and they're dead now. And I feel bad.
Can you quickly jump into a new one? We'll have a quick look at that while we're kind of wrapping things up here.
Destroy the dam and less than 3 grid damage. Okay, so this is the dam. So my objective now is to destroy the dam, which I would imagine is going to change the gameplay up quite a bit.
Water's going to come whooshing out, isn't it?
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Deploy. Boom.
Oh, and he can jump over the top of you. So you need to pay attention. It's just like chess, where you need to pay attention to this guy can move in a particular way and get past me, jump over me. Oop, there you go. I don't know if your guys were supposed to be in the water.
I don't think so, but they didn't kill me, actually. Oh, you know what's interesting, too, is the flying guys can go above the water.
Oh, they don't get hurt, yeah.
Right, which makes total sense, right?
Does make sense, yeah.
So I'm waterlogged, so I can't shoot. Oh, that's interesting, too. Okay. So it's still an effect. It's a negative effect on me, but it makes total sense that, like, okay, there's still an effect there where, even though I have an extra ability that some of their units don't have, but it still negatively impacts me in a way.
So if I was to do a little bit of retrofitting or reverse engineering of how I think they would have gone about designing this game, I think they would have said turn-based combat. Cool, we know what that's all about. We've got to have units. We've got to fight against units. Let's have some certain units can move a certain way. Cool, that's good. The part that I think would have really opened up the door is where they said, how do we use the environment? What's the role of the environment in this game? And I think that's the innovation. Yeah, it's not a gigantic innovation. Like you can like environment. Well, of course, but the fact that they did that makes this game feel different to other combat, turn-based combat games. I'm sure there's others that use the environment, but it's the combination of these factors. Let's use the environment. Some things can hurt you. Some things you have to protect. Let's have the water. Let's have the environment change. And I think the environment is the real star of this show. That's my summary here. And for any developers out there wondering, how do I make my game better? How do I make it more interesting? How do I make Into the Breach and earn all the big cash that these guys are possibly earning? How do I do that? Look at finding an element and saying, how do I do this one aspect of it a bit differently? And in this case, how do I use environment to make this game stand out?
I think too, like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I want to make a grid-based game. And I think if you look at this game, it's like this game came from what has to be a grid-based game. Like this whole game is reliant on the grid. It's positional on the grid. The whole game relies on this whole thing working. So I really think about if you're gonna have mechanics, like think about why you have those mechanics, and do those mechanics support the decisions that you're making. And I think one of the beautiful things about this game, outside of the UI and UX masterpiece of just constantly delivering me all the information I need, is that pure sort of like design that comes from really thinking about what your mechanics are and why they're there. And on top of that, every little piece that they added doesn't have one use. It has multiple uses. And given different contexts, different positional elements on the grid, different locations, different units, it's always a different experience because it completely changes the way that you play the game, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, cool. So I think that's a pretty good look at Into the Breach by the same crew that made FTL, if anyone isn't familiar. So they know what they're doing, these guys. We've looked at the UI, communication to the player, and looked at the core gameplay. So awesome. I think this I've enjoyed this, Tim. Thank you. I have too. This game.
If you like this or you want more of this, make sure you check out Rick's channel. Rick posts these as well. And check
out Tim's channel as well if you've seen this online.
And make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you think of Into the Breach and all that great stuff. And we'll see you around.
Cool. Thanks for watching.